Welcome to the conversation, my friends. Thanks for checking out the live stream. I would love to know your thoughts on the Charlie Kirk shooting yesterday. I'm going to share something with you from someone else who was also shot in a very similar way back in the 60s. Very similar, very suspicious. The reason I want to share this with you and get your feedback is my feeling is that. This event, tragic event, my understanding is some people on the left are happy about this, which I can't wrap my mind around that. But because of the polarization in our country, you're going to have situations like that. But my feeling is that this could further polarize an already polarized nation. We know the devil likes to divide, Christ likes to unite. Now, this is why I moved toward Christianity right after COVID. I'm like, holy shit, these Christians are probably right. I saw Donald Trump being very divisive. I saw the whole world being whole media and every they were marshaling all of their forces to divide humanity, right? And or deceive humanity. That's my thoughts. Divided we fall, united we stand. I just want to throw this out there. I'm going to read you this quote from that other person who was unalived in a similar way. Let me make sure that I can pull it up here. Back in the 60s, and just give it some thought. I just finished making a reel I'm going to be sharing off to my social media at gmarkphillips about this. And I want to share this quote with you from the person that was also unalived in a similar way back in the 60s. My hope is that people will maybe move beyond the left-right paradigm, right? That it's the left's fault, that all the problems in our country are the left's fault. And, that's what some people think. And all the problems in the country are the right's fault, right? Conservative versus liberal. I don't see it that way anymore. I see, black ants and red ants in a jar. Who's shaking the jar? Who's deceiving and lying to the masses and conscripting them to fight their battles for them, right? Next level warfare, next level deception is when you weaponize a person, when these bad guys weaponize people against themselves and others, right? That's next level warfare, and that's what I think is going on here. Let me read this quote to you, again, from someone who was deceived. Thanks, I get that a lot. Who was deceived in a who was unalived in a similar way. Here we go. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It's a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Of course, we all know who said that. JFK said it. I don't know the timing of this, but of course, probably shortly thereafter, either after he said this and after he printed the the silver certificates, right? Tried to take back money from the bankers that run our nation. He was unalived in a similar fashion, just like Kirk said. I appreciate your comments. I just think about who's pulling the strings, who's shaking the jar. If you, and it's very good analogy. The black ants could be the liberals, red ants could be conservatives. Who's shaking the jar? Who's agitating? And I realize these are very real events that are unfolding in our world with very real consequences, right? There was a guy who was unalived when Trump was, allegedly, apparently, shot at. I look at everything on the world stage just as it is. That's all. The whole world's a stage. Is it true? Can we believe it? What are the ramifications and implications behind that, etc.? Let me see what you're saying here, Trevor. Kind of loving Charlie Kirk, a lot of what he said, but also ignorantly supporting Trump and the two-party system to destruction. Yeah. I used to be I used to be a fan of his. Heck, I used to be a fan of Ben Shapiro's. From I'm not a fan, not a fan. I thought he was speaking some truth. And then, after October 7th, and I had a huge red pill. COVID red pilled me in a major way. October 7th, it red pilled me in another major way. Prior to COVID, I just thought government was incompetent. I was like, why can't you guys solve any problems? Why are you always at war? Why can't you get the national debt down? And after COVID, I was like, oh, that's why, huge red pill at that point in time. And I just don't like to see my people weaponized against themselves and others. So I hear what you're saying there, Trevor. Yeah, he also supported Israel unashamedly, unabashedly. And I know Israel to be a fake state now, created by bankers for nefarious means. And it appears, and what's happening in our country with the left right is similar to what Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini laid out, that the Third World War will be fomented by agitating, JEWS or Christians versus Muslims. The deceivers that I think are causing these problems in our world, they want us to fight amongst ourselves. And as the letter to Mazzini says, at the end, they'll just come in and pick up the pieces and make order out of chaos. That's what I think they want. They love it when we're fighting against ourselves. Yeah, to your point about Shapiro going crazy, I think he may have always been crazy. I just didn't see it. The deception is deep. The deception is real. I think back, this is what I try to think back about how I used to view the world. Even I go as far back as like that tragic event in early 2000s where those two planes brought down 3 buildings. I wasn't awake then, and I was like, "Oh, we got to go over to the Middle East and do what you need to do." I see that event entirely different now as well. Let me see, Trevor, what you're saying. I never understood how guys like Charlie Kirk could never call out the stablecoin skullduggery in the midst of a sovereign bond crisis that is being ignored by the public, and Trump issues $5 trillion. You might have kind of gone a little over my head with the coin thing. I'm not too well versed on that. Are you saying, well, it sounds like we might be on the same page as far as, yeah, it's sketchy that Trump is spending money in his big, beautiful bill. I mean, they're always, it's a team effort, given the fact that we're in a straight up economic crisis. And I'm actually surprised the whole system hasn't collapsed yet under its own weight. That's also part of the big picture, what they want, to bring chaos to everything. They have to destroy it all. So I think we're kind of talking about the same things. You're clearly more versed than I am in the what do we call it, digital currency type of arena. But yeah, along those lines, another red flag for Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro was they never say anything bad about Israel. It's always like 100%. And any human being that has a brain realizes that everyone has good and bad in them, and everyone makes mistakes. If they never make a call out, it's like, oh, okay, sus. What's wrong with Shapiro? Let me see here. I'm trying to get you, Ross. What's wrong with Shapiro is he appears to be an operative of certain people in the world that maybe that are causing problems for Gaza, that have been doing bad things to Palestinians for 76 years. He's never says anything bad about Israel, and he appears to be running cover for Israel. Same thing with Charlie Kirk. Rest in peace. I don't want to speak ill of him. But it's sus. Again, I used to be all about those guys. I used to listen to them. Nick Fuentes for president. Yeah, I like Nick Fuentes. I found out the other day that he has been running said in college he was running a talk show talking about exposing Israel, right? Many people are waking up to Israel. I really had no idea what was going on over there until after October 7th. Caused me to do a deep dive. Same thing with that COVID caused me to do a deep dive into the pharmaceutical industry. Before that, I never really thought much about vaccinations. I was just like, well, I never got them. I never needed them. I prefer to do things with food and nutrition and mindset and meditation. So I never really went down that road. I got the shots as a kid in the 70s and 80s, and then I never had a flu shot, never had a desire to. And when I started pushing them and someone close to me had a adverse event, I was like, son of a gun. You look into all the crimes and the sketchy behavior. So I got huge red pilled after COVID, huge red pilled after October 7th. So yeah, I'm down with Fuentes. He's speaking truth to power in a big way. Spend and charge or spend and tax. That's the two options we get to vote for. Yeah. It's definitely a team effort from what I'm seeing. They're all in on it. Biden was the Democrats spend and they give money to Wall Street, and Republicans spend and they give money to Wall Street. My favorite thing to see, and I got this from Callie Fontanilla, she said she was red pilled when Obama bailed out Wall Street. She's like, what? You're bailing out Wall Street? They all they work for the money changers, and people are waking up to it, and that's who I think is behind all of these things that unfold in our world, unfortunately. It's a wild ride. Stablecoin laws throughout the Genius Act. Okay, that is digital only surveillance money. He's signing EOs left and right. Yes, okay, we are on the same page there. Yeah, I did a deep dive into the Genius Act yesterday. Saw that video from Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about that. I remember Trump, I think prior to the election, he was talking about how he won't ever do a CBDC, but these people always deceive us, right? And lie to us. And yeah, all the presidents, left and right, have been using executive orders to push the agenda, push their master's agenda down the road. It's wild. It's wild. And meanwhile, they distract us with all of the other silly things. I mean, they're real events, but they're not nearly as big as what you're talking about here, which is currency, right? Digital currency, crashing the dollar, transferring wealth, all the things with the border, or left versus right, or him rolling out troops into these cities, which again, I think is sus and wants to, as part of the big plan. But yeah, I agree with you. Renee, you feel so helpless, angry, and sad. I'm sorry to hear that. A lot of people are shook up about this. I have some friends that they see a lot of truth of what's happening in the world, and they realize what government is and who, but they were even sad about this. So I'm sorry that you're sad. Yeah, it's a sad situation. Sometimes it feels like we're all pawns in the sick, twisted game that is playing out around us. Charlie Kirk started talking against Israel recently. That's what I heard. I've heard that going around. It's wild, which, he's been a big proponent to theirs for so long. That is interesting. I haven't, I'll have to look into that and see, like, what kind of stuff was he saying? Was he saying that publicly? Because I haven't heard that, but I haven't heard him say that, but I've heard that as a theory. So I'd love to know if you can throw it out there, what kind of things he was saying. That would be wild, again, like I said in the, I don't know if I read this. Let me read this from Kennedy. We all know it. You guys know it, but let me share this with you, because I just did a reel on my Instagram at gmarkphillips about this. Kennedy said, we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. I feel it's important to kind of get people to think maybe beyond the left-right paradigm. They want to divide us in as many ways as possible so they can, divided we fall, united we stand. Tricky Blade. I mean, if it doesn't matter if he speaks against Israel or not, Charlie was very much America first and concerned more about our issues. Why would he speak on Israel? I think he was, from my perspective, he was talking about America first. He did speak highly. He did speak about Israel in the sense that, yeah, they're our greatest allies. Yeah, they're doing all these things despite the USS Liberty, despite, the five dancing Israelis, and they're held for 75 days, and the FBI let them go. Despite my challenge with people like Charlie and Ben Shapiro is they refuse to say anything bad about Israel. If they are paid to support Israel and paid to support that, I would think as an intelligence operative, you would at least throw something in there to make people think you're somewhat of a person who sees a little bit of all sides. It's just a huge red flag when they don't say anything bad, you know. But yeah, he garnered a lot of support. I mean, he clearly was popular. Yeah, I think the world is a stage too. Thanks for your comments, by the way, thus far. I appreciate you guys. Um, Nick Fuentes is the wildest one to support. Okay, are you saying that in a positive sense or a negative sense? Just let me know. Yeah. Um, Ross, okay, what are we saying here? Vaccines aren't great. I wasn't vaxxed, but my parents were. They barely got sick, and I was super sick. I think the vaxes work, but they shouldn't be forced on people. I agree 100%. I agree 100%. Anything you have to force or mandate is sus to me. My family members were also got the thing. Just one round though, just the first two, because like I say, someone close to me had an adverse event and put us on a whirlwind adventure. Adventure is not the right word. It was a maddening situation trying to find care. What happened right the one day after this person got the VACCINES. But I agree too. I don't like the mandate. I don't like government pushing anything down. It's super sus. So it sounds like you say you barely got sick. They barely got sick, and I was super sick. I got it too. I did not take the thing. I did not take the vaccine, just because of my prior knowledge of the FDA. For me, it was, like I said, I always have felt for 20 years government is incompetent. But for me, the real homework that I did was for the past 20 years, I've been studying food and nutrition and diet. And I've come to realize the FDA allows so much garbage in the food that they can't be about health and wellness. The seed oils, the excitotoxin / chemical flavor enhancers, the artificial dyes, the hydrogenated oils that make the food last longer on the shelf. See, everything I've studied about food and nutrition always benefits the manufacturer and never benefits human beings. Preservatives. It's all about dollars, right? Making these corporations more money. Preservatives are super bad for the body, super bad for the gut. So because of what I've been learned about the FDA and the food system, I didn't even have to think about when they came on the scene with medicines. Plus, I just never vibe with vaccines. And then, of course, after my deep dive, I was like super awake. So I appreciate your comment. Let's see. Charlie Kirk was someone I watched every morning, even though I'm an atheist and don't agree with everything he said. Kudos to you for watching him. I'm assuming you're just I like the way you're thinking. I like to watch people on both sides too, because I find any information is valuable, and I want to hear all sides because I want to make sure that I have all the information to make an informed choice. That's a next level play there, Ross. I concur with that. Prayers for the Kirk family happened in my backyard. Yeah, I pray for them too. It's a sad situation. So I'm assuming you live in Utah. Yeah, I used to live in Utah myself. I went to school at the U. It's wild. It's wild when these events happen in, you know, places that generally don't get a lot of press. Hey, Mark, quick question. Yep. Okay, the owners of the Federal Reserve determines who become president, and I assure you, whoever that is won't change the aims of the owners. No, they won't. They won't. Especially not after what we've seen happen to presidents or people in positions of power that do want to give the power back to the people. They're not long for this world. That's why I wanted to throw out the Kennedy thing. Because you're 100% right. You're 100% right about that. It's just a wild situation. And, my prayer every day is that Americans will see beyond what appears to be going on, the deception, the mind control, the propaganda machine, the media machine, the pitting of left versus right, gay versus straight, black versus white. My prayer every day is that Americans see beyond that, because I don't think we have much more time left for people to wake up. I don't think we have much more time left. We're really close. Like I say, once, not if, when, once the currency collapses, we are in a real pickle. I don't even know if there's even ever things coming back. After watching David Rogers' Webb, The Great Taking, he brought up a good point, and I think this is true too. The collapse, if it does happen, will also wipe out these diabolical people that are doing all the dirty deeds. He said, like, they will create their own demise. There's really nowhere you're going to be going if the world's a total apocalyptic wasteland, where currency has collapsed and confidence in humanity and one another has even collapsed. There's nowhere you're really going to go. It's a wild situation. The other thing I liked what he said is, he said, even the people that think they have a seat at the table with these demonic, evil people that are orchestrating this, they don't. They're all tools. All people are tools that are helping to bring about whatever they want to bring about, this thing. Scroll up and read my comment about what Kirk said about October 7th. Okay, let me find it. Did I miss it? Hold on, John. I see you started talking about Israel. Did I miss it? Spend and charge or spend and tax. I don't think I saw it. Did you leave it? I don't see it, John. Will you say it again? Scroll up and read my comment about what Kirk said about October 7th. Unless I missed it, would you say that again, and I'll read it? Funny how Kirk advocated for freedom of speech, but making jokes about it is off limits somehow. Too bad free speech is free speech. Next level. Yeah, I did. Like I said, I didn't follow him too much lately. Advocated for free speech, but making jokes about it is off limits. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, why are some things off limits? You bring up a good point. Why are some things off limits and other things aren't? It's like some things are sacred, and I think that goes back to the mind control, the mechanism for keeping people in the matrix, in the prison of the mind, is like, oh, we can't talk about certain things. To me, I would joke about anything. Humor is one of the easiest ways to wake people up. Let's see. John G. Fire Sound. Kirk murked by his own people. Kirk, I'm assuming you mean murdered. Maybe. That's certainly a possibility, isn't it? Yeah. When you're playing those games and you're in that arena, same thing with political leaders, or even now CEOs. I mean, we see anyone up there. It is a wild ride. It is a wild situation. I think that's a high probability. Okay, Trevor, let me see what you're saying here. The money is the one ring that rules them all. It's all one thing that is ignored by the most, or by average Americans. Monetary policy is never discussed because it's not allowed. I agree with you 100%. I think about what Ken O'Keefe said all the time. Finance is the head of the snake. And this is why I feel the same way you do. The big play is collapsing currency. Every time it collapses, they always make a bunch of money, right? They meaning the people behind the scenes pulling the strings, right? The masters. Um, yeah, it's a wild situation. And that's why they don't educate the children about finance or money. They don't really talk about, I didn't learn about the Federal Reserve till G. Edward Griffin, years ago when I started going down the rabbit hole, probably 10-ish years ago, 5, 10 years ago, you know, Creature from Jekyll Island, listening to that guy. That guy's a gem to this world. Could you imagine speaking out about what's going on in our world and the finance and money for what was he since the 40s, 50s? So long. I mean, I think he's like 96, 97 now. But yeah, money is the way. And whenever they talk about anything other than that, it's just, it's all just a distraction. What's up? How's it going? I'm doing great. How are you doing? You know, I'm doing better than some people I know in the sense that I no longer am shocked by what I see play out on the world stage, which is a good thing because I've been in moments. I've sometimes, you know, prior to maybe a few months ago or 6, 8 months ago, I had those moments of like, criminy, are we going to be okay? What's going on? But I now have kind of gained a new perspective about what's happening in the world, so I don't get too traumatized. Hi, Mohammed. How are you? Azumi. I'm traumatized after watching the original video. Wasn't that wild? Ugh. I saw it too. It's wild. I feel you. I feel you. It is traumatizing, you know. Yeah. It's just crazy what's happening in our world. Um, your name is all one word. It is I could I can't say it, but what terrible news. Yes, it is terrible news for humanity, for the Kirk family, for all of us. These things rock the world. Okay, John, here we go. Is this your thing? Kirk said on a podcast that he thinks Israel gave the troops a stand down. Okay, order on October 7th because they needed it to justify starting a war in Gaza. I did see that. I saw that on Patrick Bet David's. I saw that clip. Okay, that's what you're talking about. Thanks for sharing that. I did see that. It was wild. And what confused me was that's a pretty bold statement to make, again. And then how he also went off and said and would say nothing bad about them and kept saying they're our greatest ally and we need to support them, and they, all the stuff about they allow gays over there and they're a haven for. Be that as it may, I hear what you're saying. I thought that was wild too. But then he never really brought it up again. I don't know. Maybe he got a call saying, "Hey, don't say these things." That's actually what kind of triggered my mind and said, "Oh man, he brings up a good point," right? It was super weird, and I don't know if you saw that. It's kind of a documentary. I'm trying to think what it was. It was short. It had a bunch of people from the IDF and from intelligence over there saying, "Yeah, there's no way anything happens on that border without it triggering a widespread and effective assault, a defense against that border." It was super sus. It's the Iron Dome, right? They have the most. Israel is one of the most sophisticated warring countries on the planet, and for that event to happen on October 7th, it didn't make sense at all. So I agreed with what he said then. Thanks for resharing that. Okay, it's not that simple. Here we go. I need to wake up because I swear to God, I thought this was Bruce Willis for a second. I get that a lot. I get that a lot. Gates once said, being a billionaire is more powerful than a president. Amen to that. You know who else said something similar? Was one of the Rothschilds. Was it Mayer or Amschel said, "I don't care who runs the country. I run the money, so I run the country." You know, that's another thing I share. Thanks for your comment. That's another thing I share is I want to get people who maybe aren't, you know, aware of behind the scenes who's really pulling the strings to kind of see who really runs the country. I recently I shared on I think I did a YouTube video about it, talking about the situation where the Rothschilds captured a high degree of wealth and or even government control back during the Napoleonic era, when they used their system of information intel gathering to deceive England into believing that the war had gone a different way, the Napoleon War had gone a different way, and they were able to, by deception, right, deceive people into losing their wealth. Let's just put it that way. That's a big red pill for people to see, and I didn't used to know that, so I share that quite a bit. What else do I think about when I think about the powers that really run the world? Well, we know that Smedley Butler, he's another big red pill helper. Smedley Butler said war is a racket. I often expand upon that and say, well, if war is a racket, or financial collapse is a racket, or pandemics a racket, or any of the other things that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, a racket, because I just follow the money. It's so funny that everyone knows that phrase, follow the money, but because of psychological conditioning and mind control and brainwashing, it's like there's a block in some people's mind, and they can't go beyond what an authority figure tells them. And that's what needs to happen. Now he's on the Epstein list. I agree with you. I don't think it'll ever be released either. And the Epstein list is another big wake up call for Trump supporters, right? He is never going to do it. It's a perpetual dangling carrot. I think not releasing the JFK files was a big wake up call for Trump supporters. I think the Epstein thing, not doing that, was a big wake up call. So let me see what you're saying here. Yash, I don't know why people are supporting or celebrating his death. They're unhinged, It's a sad situation, regardless of feelings towards Kirk or his message. I mean, yeah, no one should have to go out like that. Well, I think they're celebrating because they've been weaponized to hate the right. It's a battle of the mind, right? The next level of warfare is weaponizing people against themselves and others. And if people if people on the left consume the media that is crafted in a way to control and manipulate them, they are going to celebrate that, sadly. But you're right. It's a tragic event. Greetings from Germany. God bless you guys. God bless you too. Thanks for your message. I appreciate you. Ross, let me see what you're saying. People at my work cracking jokes about Kirk. Others feel sick to their stomachs after watching the up close video. We are in a bad state in America. We are. Yeah. It's very polarizing. It's dangerous is what it is. It's very dangerous because I think many people are under a spell. I look at it as black magic, demonic work going on. And yeah, some people are cheering for it and others are brokenhearted. It's a sad situation. We are in a bad state of America. I remain, cautiously optimistic or hopefully optimistic that we can have a mass awakening, not an awakening to, because there's two kind of awakenings that you can kind of see it right here. The Great Awakening Guide that I created to share all these knowledge and resources, all the videos and documentaries that have helped me so much on my journey these last few years. There's two kind of awakenings that could be going on. One awakening is awakening to the lies and deception in our world and who's really behind these things going on. And the other awakening is kind of this false light awakening for maybe waiting for or hoping for a false Messiah to come on the scene. And I did a video about a year ago talking about that because I don't want the document I created at greatawakeningguide.com to be misconstrued that I'm hoping for a false light. I see that as a grand deception as well. Lots of things going on in the world right now. It's an interesting time for sure. I joke about this. I say, it's time to turn all of us to turn our discernment up to, 100 and keep it real moving forward. Tim, I'm 67, and this has affected me like the days of MLK. I felt it in my soul. I think you're probably not alone, Tim. Yeah, those are the things I thought about too, MLK, um, JFK, Malcolm X, these pivotal moments, not not necessarily putting Charlie in that category, but a very prolific figure for all the world to see, and of course JFK. Yeah, my friend felt the same way. I I guess I've become somewhat calloused to these events, these horrific, tragic events that are playing out of the world, which probably isn't a great thing, but that's what war will do to a person, right? The psychological and information war we find ourselves in. Of course, there are real casualties. Thanks for your comment, Susie. Also, he said gun deaths were worth it, and to preserve the Second Amendment. I saw that. Isn't that weird? Isn't that a wild? Yeah. I definitely saw that. It's it's eerie, isn't it? Trevor, I think the powers that be were afraid Charlie was waking up. Could be. Could be. Um it's so interesting to me what I can't get in my mind around I can't wrap my mind around evil, although I do sometimes think like an evil person. It helps me a lot in this navigate this war that we find ourselves in. Um, my only question is why would they do it so publicly and so brutally and so ruthlessly for all the world to see? Maybe that's part of their next level game too. It seems like why wouldn't they just do like allegedly they do with many others? Oh, their helicopter crashed or their plane crashed or they had a heart attack or whatever else. I don't know. It's well, maybe they did it publicly to stoke those fires of the left versus right. That's kind of what it could be, but it is interesting. Um, he might have been waking up. Brian Phillip, they were his biggest donors, FYI. I'm assuming you're referring to the people he spoke so highly of. Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of these people that are, I see a lot of high level influencers. I don't want to throw names out there because it is all speculation in my mind. Anyone who's, again, 100% pro Israel, preaching, talking, they can do no wrong. We need to support them at any and all costs, even at the cost of Americans' health and well being or financial health and well being. Those people are sus to me. Again, I don't want to name names, but there's a handful of them out there, and also that support Trump at any all costs. I mean, I used to be I wasn't a big fanboy of Trump, but I liked him because I bought the lie that he wasn't a politician, right? I bought into that. Um, and now I see him as just another rich man's trick, a good one, maybe even the best one, but I had to make a list of all the reasons why in my mind, like that he's not for humanity, right? Giving billions of dollars to pharmaceutical companies, even the DOJ, to the DOJ, they're the worst offenders of all corporations to human beings. They hold the record for the largest amount of fines. You don't give them billions of dollars, and you certainly don't give them a what's the term? Legal a legal what's the term I'm thinking of? Immunity. You certainly don't give them legal immunity for a product that you are then going to mandate to people. This is my problem with government. There's never any there's never any what's the term I'm looking for? There's never any accountability for what they do. This is why when they came on the scene, I was like, holy shit, get away from me. There's never any accountability. There's never any recourse. They just run. It's a trail of destruction, their whole thing. And then, of course, another big one lately, I mean, it's just becoming, the mountain of evidence is becoming overwhelming, saddling up with Palantir and with Meta and with Larry Ellison of Oracle. It's sketchy. Yeah, let me see what you're saying here, Melody. They aren't intimidated by those who speak their mind. They're threatened by those who are able to speak their minds and make a difference. Good point. Good point. Yeah, they're only going to fear the people who have a big platform. I'm assuming that's kind of what you're saying. Yeah, little people, quote unquote little people, which, we're not little people, but we have a lesser platform, so to speak. Yeah, to speak their minds and make a difference. They're threatened by people who have the ability to change other people's hearts and minds. That's I agree with you. Memory from the past. Hi from Vermont. Thanks for tuning in. Brian. No, it's not. Being a billionaire is not more powerful than the president. That's just dumb. Let me reread it here. No, it's not. Being a billionaire is not more powerful than the president. That's just dumb. Well, they may not be more powerful on paper, but I believe money runs this world. Who was it gave Trump $1 million? I think it was Pfizer, Dow, and Monsanto. Fact check me on this. Gave them each $1 million during the 2016. And then miraculously, he writes the pharmaceutical industry, all of them, billions of dollars in check. That from a sheerly monetary perspective, that's like a big return on investment. And then Mary Madelson gave Trump $100 million for this election. And then AIPAC, I think over the course of many years, has given him like $230 million. Like that, I realize they're not as powerful, like they don't command and move armies, but they write checks to the people who will do what they want them to do. That's how I look at it. It's the same principle of, is Mark Zuckerberg more powerful than his most badass bodyguard? Physically and mentally and capability, no. But as far as money, yeah, he is. Because he could hire a bigger, more badass bodyguard to do bad things to that other bodyguard. Let me see what you're saying here. Red-blooded American. Do you remember the Coneheads on Saturday Night Live? Yes, I do remember that. And I do hear what you're saying. Brian, and either way, Trump is both. LOL. Okay, so are you saying so you're saying he's both president and rich. Okay. He is. And the question that I would throw back to you is, where did he get his money and how did he get it? Like is in other words, is Trump and Elon and Jeff Bezos, are they really the richest men in the world? Or are there, rich people behind them that don't want to be in the public eye, that would much rather use these people to move the needle and do the agenda? I used to believe that too, that Trump was so rich he didn't have to, he had FU money, so to speak. I used to believe that. And then I came to the realization, right or wrong, that he had to take money from some people. Remember when he was bankrupt? Remember when he went bankrupt? He's been bankrupt a number of times. Wealthy people often do. Who bails them out? Who gives them loans? Where did he get the money from? And is he still beholden to those people? Those are the questions I think about. Connor, I did see the video. I did watch the Charlie Cook video. We were talking about that earlier. It's wild. It's super sad, super tragic. This is going to create some trauma for people for sure. Jessica, sounds like this guy watched Endgame by Alex Jones. Truth. Doesn't sound like I've seen that, but I'm going to write that down. Is that a documentary? Doc. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. I watch a lot of documentaries, but I haven't seen that one. Let's see. Susie says, I agree with you, Trevor. Jason, one guy said, if you're a millionaire, the world is your playground. If you are a billionaire, the world is your labor. Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, the most money in this world, the people that have the most money in this world, if you look at it, there's usually some skeletons in their closet, isn't it? Right? That's why when anyone's a billionaire, that's next level money. And what did they do to get it? Who are they beholden to? It's just like Jack Ma in China, right? He's a billionaire, but my understanding is he's on a very short lease from the Communist Party there, right? And it could be, all these millionaires and billionaires operate within an ecosystem where if they do something that is exposes or runs counter against the people who really have the money, they're not long for this world. We're all playing in the system where, we're all beholden to a degree. Dylan, yesterday was a wake-up call. It was yet another wake-up call in the long string of wake-up calls, right? Yeah, it was. The events that are playing out on the world stage are just one wake-up call after another. This person says, R.I.P. Charlie, we will avenge you. So, yeah, I wish you all the best. I just hope it doesn't stoke more fires. The only thing I would say to that is, what do you mean by avenge you? What do you, do you see the left as your enemy? I no longer see the left or the right as enemies. I mean, I'm a conservative person historically, but as I go on in life, especially over the last few years, I no longer even identify with conservatives. I just am a human being. Like I see we've all been used and manipulated and mind controlled, and I see I have a lot in common with people on the left, liberals. In fact, my whole life I've had I've been blessed with a diverse group of friends, liberals and conservatives, and I find myself watching Amy Goodman, Democracy Now. She exposed Bill Clinton when he totally destroyed Haiti. Remember when he got up there and said he was sorry for destroying the Haitian rice market? I mean, can you imagine the lives destroyed, maybe even lives lost, the economy destroyed? And he's like, I'm sorry, that was my fault. That was a money grab. That was a economic warfare. So, I find myself a lot in common with people on the left. The people that I want truth, and the people that want truth as well, they can be on the left or the right. So I really don't talk about being a conservative much anymore because I'm just a human being. Rise up and fight the evil in society. The question is, who are the evil people, right? I don't think it's a left versus right thing. Yes, I hate YouTube says the war is on. We tried dialogue. The talking is over. They chose this path. My only question to you is: are people being weaponized and used as tools to fight a battle that will only benefit the people in ultimate power? Takanti, avenge, actually unhinged. Yeah, we really just I really just pray to know who the real enemy is, and I see the enemy like some of you are talking about, being finance. Like finance is the head of the snake. The people with the money, they move armies, they move politicians, they move political people and media people. Hey Nika, how you doing? Thanks for joining the live stream. Trevor, Brian Phillips, every dollar issued into existence has an interest debt obligation owed to the issuer, the Fed, which is privately owned. Thanks for sharing that, Trevor. Yeah, it's just wild. One of the biggest red pills that I think would wake up a lot of people is when they realize like the government did during, let's kind of go back for a few. Definitely during COVID, they started printing money and writing a bunch of checks that they don't have the money to print, regardless of what's going on. That saddles Americans with debt, and even Americans' children with debt. But most Americans, because they don't understand the financial system and they don't understand financial slavery, they don't see how that's financial warfare. I just see financial warfare all the time waged against Americans. I didn't used to see it because I wasn't educated about it, but I see it all the time now. Americans are struggling. All up and down the line. Rich people are struggling. Everyone's kind of in the, if everyone's being financially, everyone's in the financial war that the powers that run the world and or the government and or the Fed are waging. They just don't know it. They're paying more. They're like, why does my dollar not go further? Well, it's because they're printing dollars out of thin air and saddling you with the debt. And I've also heard it called an invisible tax. Inflation is an invisible tax. Donald J. Plump says Charlie Kirk celebrated others' deaths. Did he? If he did, that's not cool either. I never have seen that myself, but yeah. Dylan says they are cowards. Yash, true people are not mentally tough, nor do they have their own minds. True. Okay. Yeah. I feel what you're saying. You know, we've been deceived and lied to for so long and brainwashed and manipulated for so long. It's generational, multi-generational, isn't it? And it's not what I've noticed, it's not an age or experience thing either, because some people that are, you know, very older, they're still caught in the left-right paradigm. They're still caught in the, you know, savior mentality of there's someone outside's going to save us. And you're right. You have to do the work to get out of the matrix. And I find it enjoyable and endlessly fascinating because I've always been just a seeker of knowledge and information. Even back in college, I just want to know things, right? My channel prior to COVID times was about, you know, I had a podcast of 149 episodes called Enhancing the Human Experience. I just want to make life better for people, for myself and people in any way possible. But when COVID came around, I was like, I did a total content switch and started talking about the things because I realized the biggest danger facing humanity is the small group of people that are amassing a vast amount of wealth, power, and control. And that's the biggest problem facing humanity. Until we get those people off the backs of humanity, we're never going to be able to really thrive. And so I changed my whole content. Yeah, they're not mentally prepared. You know, mental preparation is work as well, isn't it? You know, through meditation and mindfulness practice and diet and lifestyle changes. And also, most people don't want to think because thinking is really hard. Remember, lots of people have talked about this. I think Earl Nightingale said it. I think Henry Ford might have said it. Thinking is the hardest thing in the world. You know, to come up with your own thoughts, be your own person. In a world of conformity, you be your own person. You're gonna take a lot of side eyes, and you're gonna take a lot of ridicule from people that are, you know, still in the mind control machine. And you got to be strong enough, like you said, you got to be mentally tough to go, hey, you know, you do you, I'll do me. You know, all the best to you. Thanks for your comment. Christian says, Charlie said a certain number of gun deaths are an acceptable sacrifice for the Second Amendment and don't like when people politicized him violence. Yeah, I remember seeing that clip the other day. It's weird. It's eerie to see that again. Esper, are you trying to play Smash or pass with the D&D Monster Manual on stream? I don't know what that means. How many more must we lose while good men do nothing? Yeah, you know, you bring up a good point. To your point, you know what I think the biggest play is just not complying and pulling our attention. See, it may be, I still think we're in the phase, well, I don't know. I still think we're in the phase where a mass non-compliance and a mass withdrawal of attention will crumple their house of cards. What else do they have? They don't have anything other than their major play is to control people's minds and get them to do things they wouldn't normally do, manipulation. A mass non-compliance, a mass withdrawal of attention, and I mean across the board. All the bread and circuses, all the sporting events, all the Hollywood movies, stop following all the celebrities, stop following all the politicians. Their house of cards would crumble overnight if people took back their attention, which is their most valuable asset, right? I After COVID and after my wake up, deeper level of a wake up pill. I think it's kind of a never ending rabbit hole, to be quite honest, of different levels. But after COVID, I'm shocked at the people who are going back to watching media and politicians and public health officials and celebrities. I mean, it's wild. That shows you how deep the deception is. You're from Beijing? Welcome. Okay, Airheads, how does this happen? How are these shooters getting in there? Good question. Good question. I think about that too. How do planes fly into buildings and collapse buildings? How do guerrilla warfare people get across one of the most defensible borders in the world? How does the Great Depression happen about 13 years after the Federal Reserve was created to stabilize money? I mean, these are all good questions, How does the 2008 collapse happen when the government's supposed to be looking out for us and ensuring the health and well-being of Americans? Meanwhile, the economy gets wiped out and BlackRock, Larry Fink makes a ton more money. All great questions. How does the shooter get into Mandalay Bay and shoot up a bunch of people who were at the Jason Aldean concert back in Vegas many years ago? We could go on and on. How do these things happen, right? I ask those questions all the time too. Time to let the blue and red hairs have it. The rage baiter went too hard and got. It's demonic. It is demonic. There's a lot of demonic things going on right now in our world. We are screwed in America because we don't know who our enemy is. That is true. I agree with you. We don't know who the enemy is. They've got people so focused on the narrative, they don't see who's writing the narrative, who's benefiting. Although people are waking up, Trevor, I do see that. I mean, I'm one of them. I'm not the brightest bulb in the box. And granted, I do have a deep fascination with acquiring knowledge and information, which most people don't. The other thing I tell people is if you investigate what's happening on the world stage and you do deep dives and you want to really see what's playing out in the world, you won't need to watch Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime or Keeping Up with the Kardashians, because this show is the greatest show on earth. It's got everything. It's got drama, it's got tragedy, it's got comedy in some cases, it's got espionage, it's war, it's all across the board. It's the greatest show on earth, and I don't mean that all in a positive way. It's also very tragic. But yeah, you're right. I also see the bread and circus machine of being what it is, a massive distraction, deception, keep people caught up and just like look over here while we do whatever we want to you, kind of a thing. Donald J. Plump, let me see what you said here. It's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect the other God-given rights. Yeah, I remember him saying that. I saw that clip. It's very wild. Charlie didn't like woke nonsense. No, he didn't. I saw the other day my friend Brandon Kroll online. I also want to do a huge shout out to him. He's been a guest on my interview series twice. You can find those on my YouTube channel in the interview series. The first one they both were fantastic. The first one talking about the occult. He's the one who's red-pilled me the most about the occult. He posted something the other day that I guess Charlie Kirk also said, talking about how he feels empathy is also a woke idea. I can't wrap my mind around that. I'm still contemplating it for now, but my understanding with empathy and the ability to feel what other people are feeling is that it will help heal humanity, right? And help wake us all up. So I can't go there with that, but he did talk about empathy as well as being woke. I don't agree with it right now, but my mind could change. That's another thing. My mind sometimes changes on the weekly these days. When people stop talking, that's when violence happens. That's when civil war happens. Yeah, did he say that as well? Yeah, that's a wild statement. I agree, it's true. That's why we got to keep the dialogue open, right? We got to keep the dialogue open. We tried dialogue, the talking is over. They chose this path. We can always get back on the path to understanding and healing. That's what we got to do. We got to do mass level healing, psychologically, physically, from the food, from the shit in the sky and the air. We got a whole lot of healing to do in this country, but it's going to require all of us doing our own part, because where does change begin? It begins with me. It begins with you. It begins with us, right? Christians are going back to sleep because of Donald Trump. I think they are. Yeah, they've got someone else to fight their battle. I think Donald Trump is exploiting their faith. I think he's exploiting their faith. Again, I used to believe in that guy, but I don't anymore. Too much evidence is mounting up. He can say he's for people, but I don't believe him anymore. Yeah, they're going back to sleep because what it is they're going back to sleep, living the American dream, rampant consumerism, good time party roll, while we got our, I say this tongue in cheek, Lord and Savior out there fighting our battles for us. And they just give him a lot of power. And the other thing I really can't wrap my mind around with Christians is they give him so many passes. It's like he can do no wrong. I think the Christians that follow him, the people that follow him, are almost under a spell of some sort, kind of like a Pied Piper type of a thing. It's wild to watch, Bruce Willis, love your movies. Thank you. I'm not Bruce Willis, but I get that. Thanks, Ross. He doesn't even look like Bruce Willis. I don't think I do either, but I get that from people all the time. Yeah, thank you. So I'm not the only crazy one, but people say that all the time to me. I don't think I do either. It's the bald head thing. Like, in some sense, all bald guys are going to look like all other bald guys. Report anyone spreading terrorism suggesting it was good or not, like Esper Teresa. Okay. Dylan, future president. Who do you mean is the future president? Bartek, no matter what did Charlie spoke about and which side he represented, he didn't deserve to die. No, he didn't. Not like that. He was a father and a husband. Rest in peace. Amen. Rest in peace to him too. No one deserves to go out like that. No one deserves, again, why he was unalived or by whom remains to be seen. But you're 100% right. He didn't. No one deserves that. We should be able to come together in open dialogue to talk and share information and ideas 100%. Christine, I am not the only one who thinks he is Bruce Willis. Yeah, no, you're right. A lot of people say I look like Bruce Willis. Romeo, rest in peace, Charlie. Yeah, rest in peace. It's wild. Nika, please reply. Can you talk about how important it is to care for the ones around us? We are allowed to believe what we want, but bringing hurt to our neighbors is obscene. Yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it. Love and understanding is the way. Not getting agitated. I agree. It is important now more than ever. But that's the thing of it is, those things are important. But what's behind that is a radical change in consciousness. Right? What's behind that? You do have to stop watching the media and politicians, because they're the ones stoking the fire, right? You got to get to know yourself. There's so many things, Nika, that I think have to happen before that, because you can't just expect people to wake up one day and go, okay, I'm not going to view my neighbor as the enemy or my family member as the enemy. I see so many comments from people saying, yeah, a parent saying my children haven't spoken to me since COVID, or kids saying, yeah, my parents haven't spoken to me since COVID. Families were torn apart. Friendships were torn apart. That's why I now believe Donald Trump is a great divider, right? Is because he's dividing a nation, he's dividing families, divided friendships, and now the latest division is over ICE. It's a wild thing, but it's going to take a lot, and people are going to have to put a lot of work in, and I don't know that they have the desire to do it. Dude, stop streaming and do movies. You think I have a career in movies, huh? Donald J. Plump. I can't stand the word empathy. Actually, Kirk says in the video, I think empathy is a made-up new age term that does a lot of damage. It might do a lot of damage. Okay, let me ask you this. If you don't like the word empathy, do you see the value in understanding how another person feels? Do you see that value? I mean, take the word out of it. Do you see, if we see someone on the street suffering, do you see the value in understanding how they feel? Is that helpful to you? Positive or negative. If I see someone get hurt doing something they weren't paying attention, maybe an unconscious moment, I can be like, oh my gosh, that looks like it feels really painful. I'm not going to do that. I think what we're calling empathy is just how human beings learn. That's how I see it. But let me know what you think. I agree with you. I think there could be a lot of new age terms being thrown around. Christine, he is not acknowledging Bruce Willis comments. I think he got sick of it. No, I acknowledge him. I just find it hilarious because I get those on occasion. No, I hear you. I'm not. This is an open forum for you to share whatever this is the conversation we're having. Whatever conversation you want to throw, I appreciate it. However you want to roll. Airheads, proof that he got to Satan's people. He spoke the truth to lies people are accepting. He had love for all he tried to witness to. Yeah, he might have. He definitely, I don't know what really happened. I guess I know the media will paint their narrative. I always think whatever they say is sus. Smoke and mirrors, look at what's happening in Paris and Nepal. Amen. Thank you for bringing us back to reality. Yeah, I did a deep dive there. My thoughts about that. I always think it's interesting how every handful of years we always have these revolutions. Arab Spring, what was it Bhutan a while ago? They did the same thing to the temple like they're doing in Nepal. We'll always have these revolutions where people stand up and, oust their corrupt government. They're all corrupt all the time in all ways. And then things die back down and a new government gets in and says, okay, now we're going to help you out. We see the past government was corrupt. We got a new government in here. I'm like, oh man, it's just this never ending cycle. But yeah, thanks for bringing us back to what's going on. Appreciate that. Dude could be the next Bruce Phillip. Thanks, Romeo. I get that on occasion. John, what was Kirk's security team thinking after Butler attempt? Didn't think of scanning roofs with a cheap drone? Good point. How does this happen? How on earth does this happen? You are 100% right. It's wild. Walter White. Here's the other one I get. Walter White and Bruce Willis. The other comment that I once got was a Timu Walter White. I laughed out loud at that. It's hilarious. R.I.P. Charlie Kirk. Yes, R.I.P. Charlie Kirk. Wild situation that's unfolding. Well, hey, I'm gonna wrap it up. Let me see how many more. You guys have given me a lot of comments. Too many to get through, but I appreciate your engagement and thank you for sharing what's on your mind. You guys make the show. I appreciate you. I wish I could get to all these, but I will do more. We'll talk about the big events that are unfolding in our world and try to wake each other up, right? Help each other move down the path. Thank you for all the people that I didn't get to your comments. I appreciate you guys very much. They will be there for future viewers, and I'm going to check them out after I, end the live stream. But yeah, you guys went crazy. Thank you. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you next time. I'm everywhere on social media and YouTube at G Mark Phillips. Again, all the best health, wealth, and success. Stay safe out there and keep your eyes and ears open, my friends. Have an awesome day.